So Miro's done talking about WWE. His focus is now on AEW. We talk about it next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. Ralph, recent interview on Busted Open Radio with Miro, talking about his big promo that he had on his debut last Thursday. And he basically said that he wants to focus on AEW. Your thoughts?
Breath of fresh air. I think that for him especially, one of the things that he covered going into that interview was the fact that he did talk to Chris Jericho. He did confide in Chris Jericho that he wanted to pick his brain, see what he thought he should say. And he was going to be a little reluctant to mention the glass ceiling and the brass ring just because he didn't want to rub anybody the wrong way in WWE. I think that for a good majority of time now, we've seen a lot of back and forth between both companies, more so from AEW, I think, than WWE. Most people are going to point to Triple H calling it a pissant company, saying that Vince would just buy them out. And we've seen comments made by Tony Khan, Chris Jericho, Jim Ross, Miro being the most recent. What I would hope to see, because the jabs back and forth between both companies isn't going to go away, and it's only going to get worse the bigger that AEW gets, in my opinion. What I would like to see, especially for a guy like Miro, and I touched on this in our last episode, create your own path. We know that you were underutilized. We know that you were a guy that was really held back from what a lot of people think. This is your opportunity to go to AEW and really break through that glass ceiling, grab that brass ring, and show everybody what you're made of. The easy thing to get a reaction out of the fans is just to mention WWE and to talk about bad creative or to talk about Vince or whatever the case may be. And that's all well and it's good, but you also have to consider that's going to turn off a certain percentage of the fan base. If you're a diehard WWE fan and you see people comment on this all the time, they're not going to want to hear stuff like that.
No, they're not. They're not going to want to hear stuff like that. I know some people like it. Personally, I don't mind one quick little jab just to clear the air. But when you keep doing it over and over and over again, then it's like, all right, enough's enough. Like I see Jericho, he once in a while, he'll throw a jab there and a jab there. Moxley still continuing, even saying something after All Out went off the air. He said something to fans. I just hope Miro can start a new, mantra in AEW. Yeah. Like, listen, one and done. We get it. You were frustrated. You were underutilized and WWE didn't use you the right way. Now it's time to move on. And that's basically what he said. And he's not the only one, because obviously Matt Hardy has said that he still has great feelings towards WWE. They did great for him, but it's time to move on. Cody occasionally will say, you know what, they did great for me, but it's time to move on, although he'll throw in a jab here and there. FTR recently said that Vince does listen to them, but then they have that second-rate Hall of Fame comment on Dynamite last week. So does that mean that WWE will move on? Because it was asked that whether or not WWE will book Lana differently because of this promo. And if Miro was worried about it, and he said, absolutely. At the same time, they should be professional and treat it as it is. It's nothing personal. It's a business. Hopefully they treat it like that. I hope that it won't hurt her. I pray everything will be fine and we should move on. Again, saying we should move on. We should move on. That is the theme of what Miro was saying. We got to move on. And I think that's fine. X-Pac, back in the Attitude Era, he let it out when he got fired by Eric Bischoff at WCW on that first episode of Raw when he came back. He never talked about WCW again. Miro could do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that.
I think that, this whole back and forth and the jabs that each company is taking at one another, that's not going to go away anytime soon. Even if you go back and look at the Attitude Era, you had parodies of Macho Man. You had parodies of Hulk Hogan from WWE side. You had obvious guys going over to WCW. I mean, if you look at Alundra Blaze, for example, going on to TV and literally throwing out the women's championship to a much bigger extent, I think that's a good example. Yep. Even to a smaller extent, you had like a parody of the NWO with the BWO in ECW. So it can make for good entertainment when it's done the right way.
Right.
I think that sometimes it comes across as disingenuous. And the only reason I say that is because what AEW continuously says is, we're not going to focus on WWE. We're going to do what's best for AEW. We're focused on ourselves over here. And then the next thing you look, there's a new tweet or something's going viral because somebody says something about the WWE. So I don't really care that they take the jabs here and there, but don't make that be something that you just focus on all of the time. I think in the span of the last several weeks, we've had a comment from Tony Khan about WrestleMania. We had comments, obviously, from Miro, which that was within the same week. And there was Chris Jericho talked about NXT. You know what? Just go to the other go to the other day. You don't belong on the same day. Whatever he ended up saying. So, little comments like that here and there. I think they're fine. It makes it enjoyable, and a certain percentage of your fan base is going to be into that. But you also have to consider the downside of that not everybody who watches WWE is going to want to hear that stuff, and they're going to be turned off by it.
Now, as was asked by Busted Open Radio, and Miro said that hopefully it doesn't happen, but he is worried. Do you think WWE books Lana differently now because of what Miro said?
How would they book her any worse? I mean, it's not like, and it's not really meant to be like a snub of Lana, but it's not like she's positioned in a spot where she's challenging for the championship or she's the champion or like a main eventer. Like, she goes out there, she does her thing, she cuts a promo here and there. I guess the most prominent role she's had to this part was either when she was managing Rusev when he was there or the storyline with Bobby Lashley, so last night, I guess she got put through a table, which
she did.
That's not very encouraging.
No.
But it's not like she's necessarily a main eventer in WWE's women's division. So I don't think they're going to book her any differently.
No, but I also think Vince McMahon does put her on TV because he might see some kind of ratings draw with her. I'm not saying like she's a megastar and is going to pull in millions of viewers, but let's not forget there are plenty of wrestlers that are married to another wrestler in a different promotion. You have Sean Spears married to Peyton Royce, and Peyton Royce just broke up with the Iconics, and it looks like she's going to get the singles push over Billie Kay. You have Big Swole and Cedric Alexander, and Cedric Alexander is probably having his most relevant time in WWE right now with the Hurt Business.
Yeah.
So you got to take that into consideration, where I don't think WWE and Vince McMahon is going to book someone badly just because of who their significant other is and where they work. Adam Cole would not be the longest reigning NXT champion if that was the case, because Triple H would have been like, no, your girlfriend is Britt Baker. You're dropping the title as soon as Dynamite goes on the air.
They put her on TV for fuck's sake.
That's true. They did.
The takeover.
That's true. So I think at this point now, like Miro said, it's time to move on. You say what you need to say, clear the air, and start fresh. So how does Miro start fresh now in AEW?
Well, I think that the first and most obvious thing is they're going to do the storyline with Kip Sabian. I actually think that because this is where he's now playing a best man, this is going to end up being one final rib on the WWE because of his involvement with Bobby Lashley and Lana and that whole love triangle type situation. Miro is certainly a recognizable guy. He was in WWE for a number of years. He was, maybe underutilized, but he was definitely at upper mid-carder, and Rusev Day was very over. So I don't think they're going to drop the ball with him. I think that he'll be in the main event picture very soon, within a couple of months.
I agree with you. I think he definitely is a main event player. He's a guy that is very charismatic. People love him. He's a great wrestler in the ring. And I think his style of wrestling will complement the very different aspects that AEW offers, where it's not just the same cookie cutter approach, sports entertainment approach to professional wrestling, where you have the fast paced luchador, you have the PWG indie style, you have the sports entertainment, which he's known for. You have guys that do strong style. You have guys that do death matches. So I think he's going to be complementing a lot of talent in AEW, and it's a great pickup. And I think Jericho said it best. WWE is going to regret letting him go. Well,
I think time will tell the story of that. If he's able to get as over as he was in the WWE, that's going to be the determining factor. If they can make Miro Day as impactful as Rusev Day was in the WWE, then that'll be a win for them. I think one of the more important things that you can look to is, if 4 months ago we were having this conversation, most people would have said, look, AEW's got a lot of small guys. They don't have any big guys under contract. Now they've got Lance Archer, they got Brody Lee, they got Miro. They got Wardlow. They got plenty of big guys there now. Luchasaurus. So
Brian Cage.
That criticism certainly has gone out the window, and they have a really, really good foundation to really build the future around some recognizable guys, in my opinion.
I agree. So let's hope that this is Miro moving on. He's said his piece and he can focus on AEW. So let us know what you guys think of Miro's comments from Busted Open Radio. Don't forget to share us all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, SCPB Podcast. And you can join the conversation by subscribing and hitting that bell for notifications. And we'll talk to you on the next episode of the Squared Circle Psycho Babble.